But let's not deny the fact that there is no pressure, but let's talk about how to deal with the pressure, how to deal with what you're going through mentally. If parents drop you off in the fall, you wave goodbye, then that's when the drama unfolds. And my advice to high schoolers would be, talk to the player who plays the least and see if you can get an honest opinion from them on if they like it there and how the coach treats them, because...
Oh yeah, Britt. Yes sir, Britt. Easy, Britt.
Hey everyone, what's up? My name is Brittany and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is a little bit different. As you can tell by the thumbnail and the title of this video, I'm going to be talking today just a little bit about the mental health issues as it relates to college athletes, specifically basketball players, and issues that for whatever reason are very sensitive that nobody else likes to talk about. Mental health is something that's obviously very important to me as someone who has suffered from severe depression and suicidal thoughts and everything like that. And also I had mental health problems as a student athlete. And yeah, it's just something that's really passionate to me, to not be afraid to be an example, be transparent, and share my story. And I feel like, especially in college athletics at all levels, but especially at the Division I level, mental health and just the mental side of things, or the dark side, or whatever you want to call it, are just things that are very personal, but things that just aren't talked about. And so basically, I went on my personal Instagram account, and I'll have what I put right here on the side. But I just asked a lot of my friends that are former student athletes and also current student athletes, what their experiences were as it relates to mental health. And so what I asked specifically was, in your opinion, what is the biggest contributing factor to mental health as it relates to college athletes? Schedule, pressure to perform, playing through injuries, toxic environment, which that word is going to come up a lot, etc. Be specific, tell me your story. Also, just a disclaimer before we get any deeper into this, because it is a very touchy subject and it can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. This is obviously my video, and my opinion is going to be on this coming from the stories that my friends told me. I'm not going to tell you like where they went to school or anything like that. It doesn't really matter. What matters is their story. And also that this isn't just like bashing, the Division I experience or college basketball experiences or coaches or anything like that. This is just simply me spreading awareness to the dreams that kids have, and that it's not easy, and that there are going to be a lot of mental hurdles. And I feel like these mental issues aren't talked enough about in recruiting. And it's like, you have this dream of playing D1 or playing in college, and then you get there, and then all this stuff happens, all this stuff changes, and you don't know what to do. And this is just me being very open and honest about the mental health side of what it's like playing college basketball. So I hope you can respect the opinion of me and of my friends that have trusted me to kind of, not speak on their behalf, but just share a little bit more about what they went through. So now that that's out of the way, I'm just going to share. I have like the little questions, and then I also have paragraphs on paragraphs on paragraphs of stories. Toxic environments and bad head coaches. Bad head coaches who have no idea how to relate to players and only use them to win and don't actually care about the kids. Sometimes kids also commit, and the school really isn't the best fit for them outside of basketball. Pressure to perform, as well as kids feeling like if they don't play well or don't play at all, they must not be worth anything. I agree with this so much. At the end of the day, playing in college is a business. I feel like at all levels, and obviously the higher up you get, the more pressure it's going to be. And a lot of money is involved in things like that, and status and all of that. And I would like to believe that there isn't a coach out there who really just doesn't care about their kids. I mean, why else would you be coaching? But I know that there probably are a lot of people that feel like their coaches don't care, or, they're in it for the money and the status and things like that. And I think that goes back to the whole mental side of things, is like, is that true? Hopefully not. It might be, but I really hope not. But it's also, how do you deal with that? You know what I mean? How do you deal with feeling that like your coach doesn't care about you? Because at times it's probably going to feel like that.
Harper's barking, so hold on.
Yeah, so this one resonates with me a lot, just in terms of how coaches relate to their players. And I feel like this is a really big thing, because obviously at times when you're in the doghouse, or when you're not playing well, or when you're being coached, or when you're being disciplined, it is probably going to feel like your coach is out to get you, or that everything you do is wrong. And mentally that can be a lot, because it's a lot different than high school and AAU, and there's no escaping it. You're going to be around your coaches and your teammates all the time, and so it's almost kind of like, how are you mentally going to deal with feeling like every little thing you do, your coach is, being negative, or just out to get you, or everything you do is wrong. Having those feelings is a lot to deal with, and I feel like you have to be mentally strong and prepared to deal with feeling like that. But it also helps to have a coach that relates to you as a person, and how you respond, and how you are as a human being off the court, because the stronger that relationship is, the more likely you're going to be able to handle that, and own up to your mistakes, or what you're doing or not doing, and separate those feelings of my coach isn't, he's out to get me, if that makes sense. So I really hope that you don't have a coach that doesn't really care about you. And I know it's going to feel like that, but I also think it's part of like the process of being a student athlete and being coached and being disciplined. And there's a fine line, because I definitely feel like I've had coaches before that really truly didn't care about me, and that's one thing. But being able to separate that from, okay, I'm being soft, or I'm being a baby, or I'm not working hard, and I have all this potential and my coach is trying to get it out of me. I think that there's a difference, but I think if you have coaches that relate to you and care about you as a person, and you're in communication with them, as opposed to coaches you don't relate with, you're able to separate that a little bit better, and that definitely helps mentally a lot. So the next one I have is from one of my friends who played D1 basketball at a SEC school, or ACC, one of those two, ACC, SEC. She said, time management, study habits are completely different. For one, you're trying to balance your old life along with your new one. All of this pressure, along with the pressure to perform at a high level. If the environment is toxic, there's that word again, this heightens it 10 times worse. It can be a lot, much more than people really know. Specifically those that are deemed replaceable. That word replaceable still just makes me cringe, and if you know, you know. That's all I have to say about that. I'm just gonna keep going. One can go from the top dog in high school to the bottom of the barrel, most disrespected. Personal advising counseling should be mandatory, in my opinion. Then she goes on to say that she had a class that got out 20 minutes before practice started. I would get taped for practice before class. So she would go to class essentially like taped. The whole class, I could only think about how I would get yelled at for the next 3 hours. My teacher would give us a 25-minute break before the class ended, and I would literally leave every day. I felt like I needed a longer amount of time to mentally prepare for practice. I ended up taking an incomplete in the class because I got so far behind. I literally dreaded going to practice. Looking back, I think I struggled a bit with something, but somehow I moved past it with no counseling or without telling people. Wow, that's a lot. So you can see, just from her story, her being an athlete like affected her performance in the class to a point that she literally took an incomplete in the class. And a lot of times you have to take classes. You go from studying to classes, and you may only have like 20 minutes to quickly eat a bar or make a sandwich in the locker room, and then you're expected to, go to class and be ready. And that can be a lot, especially as a freshman, or in her case, I think she was a sophomore, to deal with that mentally, to get yourself mentally like ready for the worst. It could be your day where you're just getting yelled at and cussed at every day. Like, we've all had those days. Again, if you know, you know. I know I've had those days. And when it's your day, like, just be a good teammate when it's not your day and support that person who is, like, getting picked on or pointed out that day, or being an example. But the point that really sat with me was her saying that she probably needed counseling and she was struggling with things, and she had to move past it without telling anyone, and without, being okay when you're not okay. And I think that's the main problem, is that you have all of these problems. You're in a new environment. You have the pressure over here. You have academic pressure. You have pressure to play, all of these things. And you don't want your coaches or people to know that you're dealing with this, because you don't want your playing time to go down. You don't want your coaches or people to think like you're not mentally tough. And that's ultimately what happened. Like, you deal with it your own because you feel like you don't have a safe place to go to or a lot of resources. So I would encourage you during your recruiting process, as a parent and as a player, to ask those coaches how they deal with mental health issues on their team. Like, who can they talk to? Who can they talk to outside of the athletic department? I personally, if I was a coach today, like, I would have mental health days. Like, if I could tell the vibe of my team and my program was off, we're going to have an off day, but we're also going to have a mental health day. The coaches aren't coming into the office. We're not watching film. We are going to be right up here. Because if you're not right up here, you're not going to be right, performing at a high level, playing basketball. You know what? Go make bracelets, or go take pictures, or go on a hike, or if you're a coach and you like to go golf, like, go do that for a day, and then we'll meet back up when we're refreshed and things like that. Like, there needs to be like mental health days, like, not only in college athletics, but like just in work and in life. Like, I'm taking a mental health day for myself just to like get back together. A friend of mine told her coach that she was depressed and she was going to get counseling. Instead of helping, she literally punished me, and I felt that she had turned the team against me, and I had nobody. I lost 35 to 40 pounds while I was there. She was very hurtful. When I told her that I wanted to transfer, she said that I was crazy and I was making the worst mistake of my life. So she ended up transferring and D1 to D1, and now she struggles from trust issues from her teammates and her coaches, just from how bad mentally and traumatic that must have been to just like go through something like that. Reaching out to a coach and someone that you trust, and for that trust to be broken and your playing time to go down, or whatever the case may be, is really hard. I don't know. I'm trying to be really careful with my words, but it's also kind of like, sounds like, in some of these different situations, that like you really have to build that relationship, with your coach, and you figure out who they are as a person as well. Like, the coaches always want to figure out who the kids are as well, but figure out who that coach really is. It just sucks that so many people have to just go through these terrible experiences playing in college like this. Yeah, she just says, now I'm just cautious about everything, and rightfully so. Last summer, I saw mental health issues with a lot of my teammates, and I was just really involved with helping them. I think there's a lack of resources to help, safe people to talk to, and people to watch them if it gets really bad. Much of that was put on my shoulders, and it took so much out of me. I'm not sure how to fix it, but that's another problem on top of the coaches caring, but they really don't. So again, like, obviously, like, does your coach really care about you, or does it just feel like they don't care about you? And how do you know, which is which type thing? A player loses respect for a coach who thinks of themselves before their players. When during the recruitment process, all the coach was saying while you were there was they will support you. Which brings me to my next thing, is that, like, you cannot base your recruiting visit off of, like, the reality of what it's really going to be like when you go there. The recruiting visit is like Disneyland. Everyone knows your name, everyone caters to you, they know your mom's name, they know your grandma, you're taking pictures, everything is just all honky-dory, whatever. And then your parents drop you off in the fall, you wave goodbye, then that's when the drama unfolds. And that's when you have to be mentally tough and know what you're getting yourself into, and, practice good self-talk, as cheesy as it sounds, or journal and get your thoughts out and find a way to, like, do other things and find your identity as a person, not just within your sport. And I think the more that you can do that and be strong up here, the more that everything else in terms of your academics and just balancing everything else and performing at a high level, like, you won't even feel the pressure. And if a coach tells you that it is not pressure to play in college, like, they are lying. Like, you are going to feel it from your parents, from your AAU coaches, from your old high school teammates, from your teammates there. You're gonna feel pressure. But let's not deny the fact that there is no pressure, but let's talk about how to deal with the pressure, how to deal with what you're going through mentally, and how to, how to cope with everything, how to deal with it, because it is a lot of change, especially those first 2 years. One girl said, I actually think there are a lot of resources for athletes to get the help they need. However, I don't think all athletes want to ask for help. I wish there were different ways we could ask for help without actually asking. Sorry if that's confusing. I also believe coaches need a far better understanding on mental health. And I completely agree with all of that. I think both sides need an understanding. I think that student athletes need to understand the difference between coaches who really do care and being coached and being pushed and being challenged, and just having a bad coach, because there is a difference. There's a difference between, like, being young and stubborn and not wanting to change and grow up, and being mistreated and things like that. But if this relationship between coach and player and staff is good, then you'll be able to, like, take that better. It's an embarrassing thing in a way to ask for help if you've never had to ask before, especially if nobody else is asking and you feel like you're the only one, because no one talks about it. It can be very intimidating to ask for help and to feel like you're a burden or your coach can't count on you. So again, like, what is the protocol for, like, mental health? Or if there is an issue, is there a place where you can go get help and feel comfortable in asking? And I feel like if we talked about it more, then it would feel like normal. Like, oh yeah, like, I'm going to this appointment, or I'm, going to get help for whatever you're dealing with. But that's a whole nother thing. At my first school, I got the help that I needed when it came to my mental health. Only my head coach and team doctor knew what was going on, but they were super helpful and supportive. However, I was not a key player there, nor would they ever see me as an important piece on the court. So of course they were helpful, because it wasn't like they were missing me, My second school, again, my head coach and one assistant and trainer knew, and they were very helpful. My new head coach, however, was super old school, so he didn't really believe or understand the whole, like, therapy mental health thing. She also said the energy towards me changed, almost like they didn't want to put a lot of trust in me, and they didn't see me as an elite athlete or player anymore. The way that they treated me and the responsibilities that I was going to have did a complete 80 when I talked to them about my mental health and what I was going through, and that really hurt my confidence. So it seems to be the trend that, like, if you talk to your coach about your mental health, they're not going to understand, they're not going to think you're mentally tough. So from that aspect, just from asking my friends, I do feel like coaches in general need to be more, like, I almost said her name, like my friend said, like, educated on mental health, and that we all deal with mental health issues. And you know what I mean? Like, just because I'm going through something, like, help me get through it, and don't, punish me for playing me less, or don't think I can, handle it. I just kind of need help from what I'm going through. because to an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, it feels like you're using them, or that, you know, they only want me when I'm like producing or like when I'm winning, but when I'm struggling, it's like I'm a problem and I'm just out here on my own. At least that's what it feels like. I know it did for me. And this same girl said, and I love this, and this is what we are going to end with. My advice to high schoolers, y'all listen to this. My advice to high schoolers would be, talk to the player who plays the least and see if you can get an honest opinion from them on if they like it there and how the coach treats them, because how a coach treats the person that can't do anything for them on the court, the walk-ons, the people that don't play a lot, will tell you everything that you need to know. If that last player, those last couple players on the roster speak very highly and of the coach and the camaraderie of the team, then it's probably a good choice. It's probably a good culture. It's probably not toxic, as opposed to asking the star player. Of course, the star player is gonna, you know, the person who's averaging the most points 9 times out of 10 is gonna be like, yeah, it's great here. So just take that advice. And so hopefully this video sheds some light on like what real people are going through in terms of like the treatment and everything like that. And hopefully the coaches can see, but also the students can get a better understanding of, is my coach challenging me? And am I just like dealing with this the wrong way, or am I really like being mistreated? And just building the relationships with the coaches through the recruiting process, asking about mental health and how can I get help, you know, if I'm doing something, if I come to this school, like how am I gonna get through something? Am I gonna go to counseling? Will the coach know about it? Will I go to like my trainer and I go to like a athletic sports psychologist, or will I go to someone off campus where it's completely confidential? All of those things matter. And I know for me, my junior year, I started playing really well, and then I started playing really bad, like really, really bad. And the only thing that my coaches were really concerned about was like my percentages were going down. Like, you're not shooting the ball as well. Like, what's wrong? Like, you're not playing well. And I felt so bad. I felt so just like that I was letting everyone down. But my athletic trainer, shout out Kristen, she's the best. I still like ask her any problems that I have. She was the only one who was like, you know, you should just go to counseling. Like, I'm noticing changes in you. You're losing weight. You know, she was more concerned with me as a person and not necessarily like my stats. And I was terrified. I was like, girl, I am not going anywhere but to the gym to like get out of this shooting slump. And I eventually went. I told her that I would go. Like, I was so afraid I was like, my coaches cannot know. She was like, you don't even have to tell me. So she ended up setting up my first appointment. I went on our off day, which was Friday. I loved it. I started going back, and by the end of the season I was doing a little bit better, and then I ended up going back my senior year, and it was great, and I loved it. It was completely confidential. My coaches didn't know. Kristen didn't know whether I was going or whether I didn't go unless I like talked to her. But had she not, you know, mentioned changes in me off the court as a person, like, I would have never went, because my coaches were like, you know, you're not there mentally, or you're out to lunch or whatever, you're not playing like you used to, like, what's wrong with you? You know, you approach me like that, like, I'm gonna be like, I'm fine, like, I got it, like, I'm good. So yeah, there's a lot to be said, and again, everyone's experience is different, but I think that everyone should be prepared for what they're gonna face mentally. And this is just like easing our way into this, because I don't want to just like throw everything out there, but I did think it would be kind of cool just to like not just share my experiences, but share like what people have gone through, you know, recently, last year, this year, and things like that. So I hope you guys like this video. I'm always here for you guys. I am a safe person you can talk to. I've experienced it all. I've redshirted, I've transferred, I've been a scout team player, I was a role team player, I was first off the bench, I was a starter my senior year. So like, what you're going through as an athlete, like, I can help you with, probably. At least I hope I can. I had ankle surgery and missed a lot of time, so I had to deal with like my teammates thinking like, or at least I felt like, you know, my teammates were like, oh, she's sitting out, like that whole thing. It's a lot to deal with. So please, my DMs are always open. Email me whatever, message me. Like, I'm here to help you guys, and I just want your experience to be the best. I just want everyone to just have that experience for those 4 or 5 years, because it's unlike anything else. And was mine perfect? No. Will yours be perfect? No. Would I have done it differently? Probably not, because it made me who I am today. But are there things I wish I knew going into it that I could have prepared myself mentally to play better, to enjoy it more than I did? Absolutely. And that's all that I want from making this video. So I'm rambling. I know it's long, but it's important. So thank you guys for watching, and subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you guys on the next video.